Hey gang, and welcome back to another Animal Crossing video. I'm Crossing Channel, and probably one of the biggest complaints that I've seen about Animal Crossing New Horizons since it launched is that the villager dialogue in the game honestly isn't the best, and that it was a lot better in past Animal Crossing games. A lot of people feel like the villagers just don't have much to say, and it makes them feel kind of bland and boring for a lot of players. Well, I and a few others have noticed in recent months since we've gotten previous updates this year in 2021 that they have actually introduced new dialogue for the villagers, which has made them more interesting than people might realize. Now, of course, I'm sure most of you knew that they had added new dialogue, especially for things like events, which makes a lot of sense. We've probably all seen that. But there's dialogue introduced in the game in the recent months that can be seen day to day as well. So I wanted to go over this and take a further look into the improved dialogue in Animal Crossing New Horizons, which we've seen in 2021. So I made a little post on Instagram kind of asking people, have you noticed any new dialogue in Animal Crossing New Horizons, since I'd seen quite a bit of talk about it online, but it wasn't something that was being massively shared, and a lot of people hadn't even seemed to notice, and I did get quite a few responses. I got even more that I'm not showing off in this video, but basically a lot of people said they noticed new dialogue. I personally noticed some new dialogue with Isabelle. She seems to say some new things in the mornings, which, you know, her announcements are kind of funny. I know they're honestly a bit redundant and most people don't really care about them because she kind of tends to say the same stuff again and again, but it's really interesting to me that the villagers seemingly have new stuff to say as well that isn't related to any new events. This is pretty cool. Now, something a lot of people don't seem to realize about dialogue in Animal Crossing New Horizons is that a lot of it is very situational. It depends on what you're wearing. You get special dialogue for wearing different outfits. It depends on what items you've got. It depends on what time of the year it is. So a lot of people may talk to their villagers and see the same lines again and again, but there is a lot of hidden dialogue. It's just more tricky to get to it, which is something they didn't really do in past games because you could kind of just get all of this villager dialogue at once. It's certainly really interesting to me though that these dialogue updates, which is something that fans have really wanted to see more dialogue added, have really gone unnoticed, and that the majority of the community doesn't even seem to realize that the villager dialogue is actually a lot better now, at least in my opinion, and by the opinion of quite a few people who responded by the looks of it, than it was when the game launched. So it's a pretty cool thing to see. Now, I know the villagers in Animal Crossing New Horizons are still pretty bland when it comes to talking to them, and you don't tend to see them say much unique stuff unless you've got those certain requirements that I mentioned. But it still is nice to see that they're improving the villager dialogue pool and that they're adding new dialogue as time goes by. Like I said at the start of the video, I'm sure you all know that they've added new dialogue for stuff like events like Halloween and Turkey Day. Of course, they'd have to add that new dialogue because they introduced that new event content into the game. But it is nice to see that they've added dialogue for each and every day as well. And I'd love for you to let me in the comments section down below, which new dialogue have you seen your villagers mention, or maybe some of the special characters mention around your island? Have you noticed any improved dialogue? I understand that the improved dialogue that we have seen may not encourage you to want to talk to your villagers again because, again, it isn't quite as good as some past Animal Crossing games, but it's still something, and I'm definitely a fan of them adding more dialogue into the game. Now, I know a lot of people tend to find the villagers in this game pretty bland, and I won't disagree with that, but I do actually like the fact that the villagers do feel a lot more alive in this Animal Crossing game by doing lots of different activities. You can see them kind of moving around your island, sweeping things up, and dancing around and singing. Those are all improvements that weren't in past Animal Crossing games that I really like. In fact, the AI for the villagers feels pretty good in this game, whereas in Animal Crossing New Leaf especially, the AI was really bad and they would just kind of stand around doing absolutely nothing. So the villagers definitely do feel more animated in this game, but there's a lot of improvements that Nintendo could make when it comes to dialogue, and I think we can all agree that we would like to see a massive dialogue update for the villagers rather than just small pieces of dialogue added as the months go by and we see different updates. Of course, right now we're waiting for the next Animal Crossing New Horizons update, so who knows what new dialogue that could add behind the scenes that people will notice in the coming months. With these past updates in 2021, it seems like a lot of this dialogue people have kind of noticed but haven't really talked about online, so that's why I wanted to make a video about it. Of course, they've also removed dialogue from the game since the game launched, which is interesting. I mentioned this in my hidden updates video where they removed the dialogue about Brewster, which is definitely a shame because it makes us feel like Brewster just won't be coming back to the game at any point in the future, but they may have just wanted to hold off on this dialogue so they didn't confuse people about the lack of his presence in the game. Like I mentioned about Animal Crossing New Leaf, I definitely do think that game did it much better in terms of dialogue and having your villagers say unique things. So if they could maybe bring back some more of that, yet still have the sort of liveliness and the AI of the villagers in New Horizons, I think that would be a perfectly good compromise. But let me know in the comment section down below, have you noticed any new dialogue in Animal Crossing New Horizons? Do you think we could ever see a big dialogue update where they may introduce lots of more dialogue, or are we just going to see it kind of sporadically added through different updates, the small kind of seasonal ones that we get? Leave your comments down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you made it to the end, be sure to comment Bob's Gang down below so I know you did. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn on channel notifications for more Animal Crossing videos.